Have you ever had the feeling that your dog knows something before you do? Not the dramatic stuff. Not barking at strangers. Not wagging its tail when you grab the leash. Not begging for food 2 seconds after you sit down. I mean the tiny things. The things that happen every single day, so often, so quietly, that your eyes slide right past them. Your dog lifting its head the moment you stand up. Following you from room to room for no obvious reason. Watching you while pretending not to. Moving closer when you're quiet, not when you call. Most people think these are random habits. They're not. Because there's a good chance your dog is doing something extraordinary every day, and you've completely missed what it really means. And once you see it, you may never look at your dog the same way again. Here's the strange part. Dogs rarely love in the loudest way. Sometimes they do. Sometimes it's the crazy tail, the spinning in circles, the face licking, the full body excitement like you just came back from war after checking the mailbox. But a lot of the deepest things dogs do? They're almost invisible. And that's exactly why people miss them. So let's talk about the first thing your dog does every day that looks small, but says everything. Number 1, your dog is constantly tracking you. Picture a normal day. You get up to grab water. Your dog was half asleep, but somehow notices. You shift in your chair. Your dog opens one eye. You walk toward the door. A few seconds later, there it is behind you. Not because it needs anything. Not always because it wants food. And not even because it wants attention every time. It's because your dog is reading your movement like it matters. And to your dog, it does. Humans think in plans. Dogs think in patterns. Your routine becomes their map of safety. The sound of your footsteps. The pace of your breathing. The way you reach for your keys. The pause before you sit down. Even the difference between how you move when you're relaxed, and how you move when something feels wrong. Your dog learns all of it. Not in the way we memorize facts. In the way the heart learns what feels safe. That's why your dog often knows you're leaving before you've done anything obvious. That's why it can tell the difference between you standing up to go to the kitchen, and you standing up to leave the house. That's why it appears in the hallway before you even realize you've changed direction. To you, it's just movement. To your dog, it's information. And once you understand that, something kind of heartbreaking becomes obvious. Your dog is paying attention to you far more than you are paying attention to it. While you move through the day on autopilot, your dog is studying your rhythm like its world depends on it. Because in many ways, it does. But that's only the surface. Because your dog isn't just watching what you do. It's also reacting to something even more invisible. Something you probably don't even notice in yourself. Number 2, your dog reads your emotional weather. There are days when you don't say a word. You don't cry. You don't slam anything. You don't tell anyone you're stressed. And yet your dog acts different. Maybe it gets quieter. Maybe it stays closer. Maybe it rests near your feet instead of across the room. Maybe it watches your face longer than usual, like it's waiting for something. Why? Because dogs are unbelievably sensitive to emotional shifts. Not because they understand every human problem. They don't know what an overdue bill is. They don't know what happened in that text message. They don't know why your chest suddenly feels heavy. But they know you changed. They hear it in your voice. They see it in your posture. They catch it in your breathing, your pace, your silence. And here's what most people miss. Your dog is not just reacting to your emotions. It is often adjusting itself around them. That's a very different thing. When you're calm, your dog may feel free to drift, nap, wander, relax. When you're off, even slightly, it often reorganizes its behavior. It checks in more. It lingers nearby. It becomes more alert. Sometimes it even becomes clingy, restless, or unusually still. And we often misread that. We say, "Why is my dog being weird today?" But sometimes your dog isn't being weird. Sometimes it's responding to the version of you that you haven't fully noticed yet. That's why some dogs seem to approach their owner at the exact right moment. Not because they know the story. Because they feel the shift. And what makes this so emotional, is that dogs don't do this from a distance. They move toward connection. They don't send sympathy. They show up. Quietly. Without language. Without needing credit. Sometimes the deepest comfort your dog gives you doesn't look cinematic. It looks like sitting in the same room. Moving a little closer. Keeping one eye on you. Waiting. As if your pain changed the gravity in the room, and it felt pulled toward you. And that leads to the third thing. The part that changes how all of this should be understood. Because maybe your dog isn't only doing this for you. Maybe it's also doing it because being connected to you is how it keeps itself okay. Number 3, your dog uses closeness to regulate its world. A lot of people think affection is simple. My dog loves me, so it wants to be near me. That's true. But it's incomplete. Because closeness, for dogs, is not just affection. It's regulation. It's grounding. It's the difference between "the world makes sense" and "something feels off." That's why your dog follows you into the bathroom. That's why it chooses the room you're in, even when there's nothing exciting happening there. That's why it gets up and relocates just because you did. That's why some dogs sleep better when they can hear you, smell you, or feel that you're nearby. People laugh about this stuff. They say, "My dog has no boundaries." And yes, sometimes it's funny. But underneath the humor is something deeply sincere. Your dog often feels safer when the connection is confirmed. Not once a day. Repeatedly. That's why it checks. Looks up. Follows. Listens. Repositions. Watches. These aren't meaningless little habits. They're emotional maintenance. Tiny ways of saying, "Are you there? Are we okay? Is the bond still intact? Is my safe place still where I think it is?" And the reason this gets missed is because humans are drawn to dramatic signals. We notice chaos. We notice barking. We notice destruction. We notice obvious need. But healthy attachment often looks quiet. It looks like the dog who simply wants to remain within your orbit. The dog who doesn't need to jump on you to love you. The dog who checks the hallway when you disappear. The dog who settles down only after it confirms where you are. The dog who stares for 2 seconds longer than seems necessary. That dog may be telling you something beautiful every single day. Not, "Entertain me." Not, "Feed me." Not even just, "Pet me." But something closer to this. "You matter to my nervous system. Your presence changes how safe the world feels to me." And maybe that is why these little behaviors hit so hard once you finally understand them. Because they reframe everything. That dog lying near your chair? Not random. That dog trailing behind you from room to room? Not pointless. That dog watching you in silence? Not empty. It has meaning. And maybe the saddest part is this. Many dogs spend years expressing this kind of quiet devotion, while their humans only recognize the loud moments. We remember the tricks. The zoom eyes. The greetings. The goofy chaos. But the real love story may have been happening in the background the whole time. In the glances. In the following. In the checking. In the waiting. In all the tiny ways your dog has been saying, "I feel better when I know you're here." So the next time your dog does that thing again. When it lifts its head as you move. When it changes rooms just to stay near you. When it watches you while you're tired, quiet, or sad. When it settles only after confirming your location. Don't brush it off too fast. Pause. Because you may be catching your dog in the act of loving you in the most honest way it knows how. Not with words. Not with performance. But with attention. With sensitivity. With trust. And maybe that's the real twist in all of this. You thought your dog was just following you. But maybe what it's really been doing, every single day, is building its entire sense of safety around your presence. That's not a small thing. That's not a silly habit. That's a bond. A quiet, living, breathing bond that shows up in the smallest moments, which is exactly why so many people miss it. Until one day they finally see it. And once they do, those little ordinary moments never feel ordinary again. So tonight, before you go to bed, watch your dog carefully. Not during the big moment. During the small ones. When you stand. When you sigh. When you leave the room. When you come back. When you go quiet. Watch what your dog does. Because chances are, it's been telling you the same thing every day. You are not just the person who feeds it. You are the place it returns to feel okay. And if that doesn't change the way you see your dog, nothing will.